This is A's Cast Live, your comprehensive look at the Oakland Athletics.
And the pitch is swung on, hit the right field, hit deep. Whitefield going back at the track, over his head, and over the wall. Do you believe that?
And 29 other MLB clubs.
Ramirez with a drive to deep right, away back, goal!
Shohei hits a bomb out there by the Rocks. And boy, oh boy, this third inning is now showtime.
It is a Judgian blast. All rise. Here comes the judge.
Join us as we take you inside the baseball universe, from humidors to spin rates to game-changing moments. We have you covered. Spend your afternoon with us next from the town, only on A's Cast Live. Here's Chris Townsend.
What is happening, baseball fans? Also, Oakland A's fans, how are we out there today on a Monday? As we're getting you ready for the Athletics and the Texas Rangers. We're going to have first pitch at 5:05. A's Total Access, brought to you by
Chevron.
Will be at 4:05. But what a show do we have for you today here on A's Cast Live. Coming up, we've got solid guests. We've got Stephen Woods, who does Ben and Woods, the morning show on the Padres flagship station, as really the two hottest topics in baseball right now. No, it's not Chris Woodward, the manager of the Rangers, being fired. We will get into that. How about that? The Rangers don't have a manager. By the way, that's number 4. We're not even into September. We've had 4 guys fired. How many teams are there in Major League Baseball?
30.
4 out of 30 is what?
13%.
13% of all managers have been fired, and we're not even at the end of the season? How many times do I preach to you, these guys who keep saying that we have to listen to and we have to read, who want to preach patience, want to preach time, can't rush, guys. It's going to take years. We're going to lose, blah, 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 blah. Owners don't want to hear it. They don't. They don't want to hear it. We're spending millions of dollars. I want to win. You may get a guy who's patient. You may, but 4 managers have been fired. 13, we have to round down. Was it 13.33333, whatever?
Yeah, just 3 infinity.
I would have liked to say 14%, but 13% of the managers have been canned. And there will be guys fired after the season. How many? Are we going to have 20%, 30% of everybody fired? We don't got time. Now, Mark Kotsay has time. Good news. But they're just showing you you're being lied to when you got all these media people, whether it's print, TV, broadcasters, they're all lying. They don't know what the hell they're talking about because they're all stuck in their old ways. You got to win. And you don't win, you're going to be out. I mean, when's the most? I don't know this number. It just came to me. What's the most managers ever fired in season? I mean, 4 is a lot.
Yeah, I can't remember a time where there was.
This is a lot. And this is a time when you got all these guys. You got all these guys preaching, rebuild this, rebuild that. People don't want to rebuild, man. They'll take it for only so long. How about the Rangers? Well, we're going to sign. We were told this by Eric Nadel, their Hall of Fame broadcaster. Everything's fine. They signed these 2 guys, knowing that this wouldn't be a great season. And then there's going to be a lot of pitchers that are free agent in the offseason. And then the Rangers are really going to go for it. Patience, right? The Hall of Famer, Eric Nadel. Yeah. That's what he was telling us. I mean, he's the play-by-play voice. Well, guess what? Manager fired. That didn't happen. And he got an extension last November, right before the lockout, right? Yeah. He got an extension in 2023 with an option for 2024, and he's fired before the end of the season. unbelievable. But Stephen Woods will join us 2:30, Padres flagship station, as once again, two biggest stories in baseball right now continue to be the mystery around Tatis Jr. and I think AL MVP race. If you said, what are the top two stories? There's a lot of great series, and I got all the notes for you right here on all these series. You've got Mets playing the Braves. I mean, if the Braves are going to make a run, here you go, guys. Here you go again. A bunch of teams hooking up in the AL East as you got the Rays and the Yankees. You got the Orioles and the Blue Jays. A lot of good series. Brewers, Dodgers. Got a lot of good series for a Monday. We'll get into all of that. But I think the two biggest stories right now, it's really Judge versus Ohtani, and it's Fernando Tatis Jr. So we'll talk to Stephen Woods in San Diego coming up here at 2:30. Sarah Lang's on the MVP and so much more from MLB.com. And Robert Murray, national columnist from Fansided, he'll join us at 3:30. Jam-packed show. But I wanted to start the show with a simple phrase. Be careful what you wish for. Be very, very careful what you wish for. And I have taken, I guess you would say, hundreds of calls on A's players, other teams, free agency, long-term, we don't sign anybody. How do I buy a jersey? Why can't that be us? Over and over and over again. And I have always said, I hear you. I understand. But I rather win. I rather go to the playoffs. I mean, people are bitching about this as the A's are in the playoffs and other teams are not in the playoffs, but they got guys with big contracts that you can buy their jerseys, but they're not in the postseason. It's amazing. You wish it could go hand in hand, like what the Warriors have. You'd like to win championship, have your franchise guys. That's great. But in baseball, doesn't seem to translate. Be careful what you wish for. What they have going in San Diego right now is a nightmare. An absolute nightmare. They went from trading for Juan Soto, Josh Bell, Josh Hader, talk of baseball. Oh, my God, this is incredible. Doesn't matter that last time I checked, they were 16 back. What is it now?
I think it's somewhere around. I mean, the Dodgers are 32-6 since July 1st.
Well, they just won 12 in a row, lost yesterday. But the Dodgers just won 12 in a row. They're trying to match a win streak of the greatest win streak in Dodger history since they moved west in 1958 from Brooklyn. They got it going on.
Yeah, they're a pretty good team.
They're a decent little ball club. They might have a chance in October.
I put it down there. If they go, it's in there in the playbook somewhere, what their record would be to have to go to 116 wins the rest of the year. It was like 37
it's
to 12.
Not happening.
The Padres are currently 16 games behind the Dodgers.
16 games back, but everybody's fired up. They got and then the Tatis news comes down. It's not like Philadelphia, by the way. Philly, you know, I've adopted two teams. We're gonna have to talk about that. Have you picked your National and American League?
Well, if I have them, it's the Pirates and the A's. But we're talking about postseason teams.
I'm talking about real teams.
Real teams.
I'm talking about real team. Pirates are not a real team.
Oh, then it's the Brewers.
They'd be regulated by now.
Yeah, they would have regulated years ago. Brewers and
who are your teams?
Oh, the people really want to hear who my AL team is.
Who's your AL team?
The Houston Astros.
Wow, you're going chalk.
What, Brewers and Astros?
Yeah, you're going chalk.
Yeah, people are really thinking Brewers Astros World Series.
You're going chalk. You know who mine are? The Fightins.
The Phillies.
You know guess who my American League team is?
The Baby Jays.
No.
The Guardians.
My Cleveland Indians / Guardians. Yeah, I said Indians for my man Ray Fosse. You want to know why I'm going Guardians? Why they are my new down the stretch here for the rest of 2022? Why I love me some Guardians?
Because you want to see a snow-filled World Series between the Phillies and Guardians?
That's not it, but that could happen. By the way, We will get into the postseason schedule. That came out today. Like they wanted to show everybody. These are the dates. World Series going into November. It could be in New York, either Yankees or Mets. It could be in Minnesota, Cleveland, Philly. Who else in the Northeast is still in this thing, or the Midwest?
Do we consider? No, that doesn't.
Hold on, I got it.
No. In the AL Central, it's White Sox, or it's the Twins and Guardians.
White Sox technically are still in it. So if it was to end today,
yeah, it's gonna be cold in the South Side.
you've got Yankees, Mets, you got Philly, Cardinals. St. Louis is freezing cold.
Yeah,
Atlanta could be cold at that time of the year. Blue Jays have a roof. Mariners have a roof.
Rays have a roof.
San Diego, you're fine.
LA, you're fine.
Astros have a roof. But if you go to New York with the Yankees, Mets, Cleveland, I mean, you're excuse my language, you're screwed. It could be freezing cold. Trust me, I've traveled the Northeast during these times. And those games are, even if it's not snowing, it is freaking cold. Ugh. Not good. But I'm going to go Guardians. The Guardians are my team. Why are the Guardians my team, even though you don't care? But I'm just going to tell you why. They pitch. They play defense. They make a whole lot of contact, and they steal bases. They've been stealing a ton of bases. You know that?
I haven't.
My guy, you know my favorite player is in all of baseball, and I'm going to buy his jersey?
Jose Ramirez.
Stephen Kwan.
Oh, Barry's own Stephen Kwan. Doesn't strike out.
Friend of the program, is hitting and stealing bases. Sign me up for pitching, defense, contact, not doing everything off home runs. Yes, Ramirez should be in it. You know what? He's going to, you know what he's going to be? Jose Ramirez is, by the end of his career, which could be in Cooperstown, he could be one of those guys who's one of the great players to have played and never won an MVP. And it's not his fault.
No.
I mean, he's played around guys who are having monster. I mean, he's having a monster year, but he's not going to be Judge or Ohtani.
He's finished in the top 3 of the MVP 3 times. He's finished in the top 10 if you include Dozier's 4 times.
He's a baller. See, last night, I was watching the highlights, rips that ball to the shortstop's head, just hits it where it's pitched. He's, what's he, 3rd in RBIs?
I think so, yeah. He's 100. He has 93 RBI this year.
He's 3rd in RBIs. No one's talking about him. He's 3rd. He's having a my Guardians from here on out. Phillies took a bath over the weekend. You know what I need to get? I want an old school light blue Mike Schmidt jersey.
Those are pretty sweet.
Those are sweet. Or Steve Carlton.
Not Bryce Harper.
No.
Harper looks good in it.
But Harper's taking BP today.
Yeah.
So be careful what you wish for. Back on track. So now with this kid who supposedly is the next face of baseball. Wasn't he on MLB The Show?
Correct, this year.
All right. Oh, these Dairy Queen guys.
Oh, yeah.
Look out for it. If you've been on Dairy Queen, Tim Anderson, done. Bryce Harper's been done. What's his name? Bellinger stinks. And now Harper.
Tatis.
And Tatis. If you're a Dairy Queen guy, it's almost like the Madden cover.
Yeah. Who was it? Bob Nightingale, I think, shared that the other day.
Is it Nightingale?
It was Nightingale. I saw it today, and after you told me, I looked it up, and he had it.
The Dairy Queen guy. I have actually never been to Dairy Queen.
I've noticed it's not very big in California. It's big on the East Coast.
Have you been to Dairy Queen?
Yes.
How do you rate it?
I like it. I'm a Dairy Queen. I grew up with Dairy Queen. You come out here, there's places like Sweet Retreat and frozen yogurt. Frozen yogurt wasn't really a big thing.
Is it one of those places like you can get a burger and hot dogs and you get the dessert?
Yes, there's one in Campbell. For our audience that lives in the South Bay.
I've seen. It's like a Sonic.
Yeah, I would take DQ over Sonic. That's just me, though.
Sonic could be a potential sponsor, so we're big friends of Sonic, and I love Sonic. And if I could have Sonic right now, I would.
Their limeades are great.
But I was just saying they're similar.
Yeah.
In menu.
Yeah, check out Dairy Queen. It's off of Winchester and Campbell.
Never been to a DQ.
It's like the only one I've seen here.
But since I watch a lot of baseball games around the country, they do a lot of advertising. I have seen a lot of their ads. Looks pretty good. I tell you, in my travels, it's like when I was in Houston and I had the Whataburger.
I've had that too. The airport in
It
Dallas.
was fabulous. Now it was like at 2:30 in the morning, and anything was going to taste good at that point. But I remember it was fabulous. So be careful what you wish for.
Apparently, there's one up Blossom Hill also.
So you're talking now. You're talking with Fernando Tatis. Multiple times he's separated his shoulder. They wanted him to have surgery. He wouldn't do it. He then falls off a motorcycle, gets flippant with the media, and then says, which time did I get injured? So wait a minute, there's multiple? So you hurt your wrist, and you want to take care of it the way you want to take care of it. And when all of a sudden he started on his own, started taking, let's just say, some hacks in the cage, there are Padre people going, what the hell are you doing? So this is a young star player, sounds like not listening to the medical staff. Well, by the way, I got asked yesterday, went to dinner last night. Hero Ranch in Saratoga, highly recommend it. But went to dinner last night. Didn't get to say hello because I was walking out. We got to get a hold of Brennan. The head coach of San Jose State was there.
It's time to start climbing the mountain. Season ticket holder right here.
But my buddy said to me, he goes, have you noticed that the articles are long on the Athletic at dinner last night? I said, oh, are you kidding me? But I read this so you don't have to. One person in the know, a source around the Padres, said, with all this stuff going on with Tatis, said, quote, not surprised at all. He does whatever he wants. So it's been a culture, young superstar signs the mega deal and just basically does anything he wants. And with all that said, once again, shoulder problems, wrist problems, all kinds of problems. Now, steroid problems. You've got a $340 million contract here, folks. Be careful what you wish for. It's almost like I need to write it down and put it on Ricky Henderson. So you'll see it, because I know you guys see this every show. Here's Ricky. Be careful what you put a sign here. You want to talk Anthony Rendon's contract? You want to talk about Mike Trout's contract, how much he hasn't played? By the way, this thing you want to talk about flat out scary, the amount of games that I couldn't believe this.
It was like 500 something, right? 580.
Where is it? At the end of this season, Fernando Tatis Jr., counting postseason, which was just the 2020 when they got in. By the end of this season, the Padres will have played 578 games that he's missed more than half of 578 games. $340 million. It's not like you're paying this dude $3 million a year and it's chump change. What does it matter? It's $5 million a year. You've guaranteed him the most unbelievable generational wealth. It's one of the largest contracts in the history of professional sports. It's by far more money than Michael Jordan ever made. It's more money than Tiger Woods. I'm not counting endorsements. It's more money than Tiger Woods has made. The biggest stars you've ever seen. Tom Brady, you name it. This kid has been guaranteed wealth beyond belief and has done really nothing. He showed some pop. Last year was fantastic, but guess what? I don't know if it's real. This is a steroid that he tried his dumb PR people or agent, whoever, because there's a medicine for ringworm that's similar. And I'm not going to admit how many people fell to this, but there's people who have even talked on our air who have kind of fallen for it, that the medicine that's used for ringworm is similar to the steroid. John Heyman had it in the New York Post going, really? This is what they're really trying to pull on you? Like we weren't going to be able to figure that out? I contacted immediately. My doctor was like, no. This is not used for ringworm. You use this. It's kind of like what McGuire had back in the day. The Andro. You remember Andro in his locker? People went, what's that? Because you see everything's in. These guys were so brazen back then. Andro is something that you took when you're taking steroids to help mask it. Hell, McGuire had a bottle right there in his locker for all the media to see, and all the media there, they're like, what's that? This is something you take when you're doing other steroids. So now you're starting to find out this guy's probably been doing it when you were like, oh my God, super talent, Nando. Oh, this super skinny kid with this great power, Nando. Nando, you know what? I'm just going to go off what we've seen in the past. Too good to be true. Guess what? PEDs involved. If there's stuff we've heard about Trout, there's been rumors. I've heard things, and I always say allegedly, but there's the TUE, the TUI that you can take, and that's how. What's the drug all the college kids take to get focused?
Oh, Adderall?
Adderall. I did a show with that Aubrey Huff, and I know Aubrey Huff jumped off the rails here with his political beliefs, whatever. But Aubrey Huff is a world champion and told me all about it. Yeah, he was able to take Adderall, which is a banned substance, because he had a TUI. So there are guys that are able to take testosterone. If you can prove that your body doesn't make enough testosterone, if you have some type of defect, you can get this, and baseball will test you for it. Everybody gets tested, and if it pops up that you've taken Adderall, but if you're allowed to, so to think that nobody's taken anything in baseball, you're kidding yourself. So I'm sitting here going, you're trying to tell me that this kid just got popped, and this is something you take if you're taking with other stuff. Be careful what you wish for. $340 million guaranteed. You now got Juan Soto. Great problem to have. But wouldn't you like to take that money and just make him go away, Fernando Tatis Jr.? Make his immature, broken self, because he's broken. Bad shoulder, bad wrist, bad decisions. It's bad, bad, bad. He's a bad invest. You know what he's right now? 578 games. He won't even play in half of them. That's this year. Don't forget next year when he's still suspended. And he can't even play in the World Baseball Classic.
Correct. I think it's 42 games he'll be suspended for next year.
This guy officially is a bad investment. Wouldn't you rather be able to take that money now and say, here you go, Juan Soto. Here's 340. We'll add another 150. We'll give you 500, whatever it is. I mean, you're now stuck with this. I mean, this kid. You have the A-Rod from last night?
Yeah, this is a clip from A-Rod on the K-Rod broadcast. Funny, Jeter was sitting right next to him, but here's what A-Rod had to say when Michael Kay asked him about Fernando and learning from his mistakes.
Yeah, look, I have no regrets, no excuses for my behavior. It is on me. And look, we'll talk about the Tatis thing later. I wish that a lot of these young players who I admire so much learned from my stupidity and my debacle. Mm-hmm. And it almost brings me to tears to see a kid like Tatis, who's 23 years old, that for the rest of his career, he's just going to play it out. There's probably no Hall of Fame. I'm not going to go to the Hall of Fame probably because of my own mistake. Mm-hmm. And that's heartbreaking for me. It's heartbreaking to explain that to my daughters, but that's on me. So I get to be now hopefully a better friend, a better business person, more importantly, a better father.
Okay. I'm not playing the, oh, what a shame game. I'm not. You're a cheater. And if we're going to treat Bonds and we're going to treat Clemens and we're going to treat McGuire and Sosa and Palmeiro and on and on and on, if we're going to throw those guys under the bus, and the fact that it's laughable that Big Papi is a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's laughable. But it just goes to show, like, people like Nando. He's got a nickname, Nando. So you know what? Everybody's like, oh, isn't this a shame? Why is it a shame that a guy is taking steroids and cheating. Why should I feel bad? And I know Bonds is an ass. I dealt with him multiple times. But Bonds is the best player I've ever seen. So if I'm going to go, oh, poor Nando, oh, Big Papi, that's not fair that he passed a test. Oh, Big Papi's different. Boston strong. No, he should get in the same line as Bonds and Clemens. He should. That's a reality. The fact that we're like, okay, A-Rod, you're a juicer. Even though you had a great career, you can't go in the Hall of Fame. Oh, poor Nando. There is no poor Nando. Are you kidding me? And what we're seeing in baseball, it's still here. It's still here. Guys are still taking that risk. It's still happening. And we're the one sport where, the big time players. I was asking you over the weekend, what other sport are there stars, primetime players in their prime, not older guys, prime guys, guys that are on video games testing positive for steroids?
Only guy came to mind was DeAndre Hopkins.
And DeAndre Hopkins walks down the street. No one knows who the hell he is.
But he's a star.
He's not a star.
He's a top 5 wide receiver.
Doesn't mean he's a star. Is he on a video game?
Well, it's usually quarterbacks that are on there anymore.
Running backs can be on there.
Was he on it? I'm curious.
You really think an Arizona Cardinal wide receiver is a star compared to Nando? You're stretching it. Do we have to go over this again? You always overflate people.
It's not just me. He's a top player in the NFL.
I know, but he's not. I'm talking like Steph Curry.
Well, no.
I'm talking like Tom Brady. I'm talking like Peyton Manning in his prime. Other sports don't have their star players.
I was going to look and see where he was on the NFL Top 100 last year.
Give me the NFL Top 100. Tell me which guy's on steroids.
I have to get the list actually come up. They haven't done all of them, but I'll find. I'm going to try to find last year.
Who did we go through this? And I had to call my wife, and she's like, "No, I never heard of him."
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes.
But you're telling me people who watch the NFL will not know who DeAndre Hopkins is?
No, people who watch the NFL.
I don't think a lot of people know who Fernando Tatis is.
But he is the star of the sport.
Oh yeah, they're billing him that way. There's other guys.
Right?
There's other guys in football.
He's a star in the sport. I'm not saying football. He's not a footballer, but he's a star of the sport. God, you never get things. He's a star of his sport. They're putting him on the video game. Who is like that in the NFL?
Patrick Mahomes was ranked the number 1 player in the NFL last year. And he's on Madden. And you're telling me people won't know who he is? No.
I already proved it. I already proved that.
DeAndre Hopkins was 8th.
Okay, great. Any of those guys test positive for steroids?
No.
So why does baseball still have this problem?
I know. A-Rod mentioned that, last night. Him and Michael Kay. Michael Kay said in the NFL, guys suspended for 4 games for PEDs. They're back. People forget about it. They don't even know. They don't remember guys.
But now
even did
these
it.
guys have been suspended.
Yeah.
By the way, your list is so flawed. J.J. Watt is still on there.
T.J. Watt.
Oh, T.J. Watt.
He's pretty good.
Yeah,
he's pretty good.
But who's getting popped? Who's getting popped in the NBA?
No one. They got. I tried looking this up. Like the NHL, no one. There was like one guy from the Vegas Golden Knights a few years ago. NBA, there's like no superstars. They're like average players, like a Wilson Chandler.
I don't get it. I don't get why our sport still has these. Why do our guys, knowing that they're going to get tested, knowing that our test is like Olympic testing, how do you think you're not going to get popped? Ramon Laureano, our own guy. We got to be honest. Ramon Laureano, Frankie Montal. We've had 2 guys recently.
In the last 3 years.
2!
Here's a list of guys just in the last 10 years. Ryan Braun, 65 games. Melky Cabrera, 50. Robinson Cano, twice. Bartolo Colon, Nelson Cruz, Manny. A-Rod, a full season. Miguel Tejada, Frankie, and Ramon are just some guys I remembered.
We've had 2 guys.
3, technically, if you include Bartolo.
Barty was 2012.
2012. So 3 in the last 10 years.
Sir, what's going on? It just goes to show the money is worth it. Like, you'll lose this money. Like, Fernando Tatis essentially will lose the money from suspension. By the way, the big money hasn't kicked in his contract yet.
Yeah, he makes, I think, 5 this year and 7 next year, something like that.
It's not until 2 years from now, like $35 million or whatever. So he can come out of this suspension and just go, yeah, I'm clean, and never test positive again, and he'll get all the big money. But I don't know what you do. So back to the point. What
I was gonna say, if you want to hear how his teammates, well, I have a cut from Mike Clevenger and a cut from Manny that are pretty telling.
All right.
So let's play. Here's Manny Machado on Fernando Tatis after Friday's game.
He hasn't been part of the team all year, and we've gotten to this point so far without him. Hopefully, we're waiting to get him back, and hopefully, him to be a spark plug for the team. But we've been doing it all year, just continue doing it. Same message continues to go since day one, since we had all year. So we still have the same goal, which is to try to make a World Series and bring a championship to San Diego, and that's what we're going to try to continue to do.
All right, you oversold that.
Well,
but the thing between Manny and they had it out last year
in the dugout, yeah.
Because the bottom line is this: he's acted very selfish. He's one of these guys. When he's going good, everything's great. When he's not going good, he's pouting. And Manny called him on it. And it's hard to believe that Manny Machado is calling somebody on not being a jerk, which there's been plenty of reports for years out of Baltimore. But maybe Manny's grown up, and Manny knows where he is in the prime of his career. He only has so many shots. I'm cool with that. I'm on record saying I think Manny Machado will be a baseball Hall of Famer. I think I doubt he finishes his career in San Diego. He'll go somewhere else. But when you add up all the numbers, I think he'll have a really good shot. I mean, he is a baller. And Manny understands he's running out of time. He only has, he's not technically running out of time, but he's like, what? He's 30, 29, 30?
Yeah, he's in his late.
So he's right in the middle of his prime, man. He's got the Dodgers. He understands. He gets it. And Manny and him have, I guess, not always gotten along, and we know last year they had their tiff. All right, what did Clevenger say?
Here's Clevenger.
Very disappointed. It's the second time we've been disappointed with him, and it's just, you hope he grows up and, learns from this and learns that it's not just, it's about more than just him right now. No, look at this clubhouse. We really don't need anybody else. It would be nice to have somebody else, but we don't need anybody else. We got everyone we need right here.
So with all that being said, A's fans, once again, A's fans have wanted to re-sign everybody. And unfortunately, how do I want to put this? I want to put this nicely. We've actually been really lucky that we didn't. We really have been. Even though you wanted to sign everybody, you want to fall in love, you want to marry everybody. And unfortunately, you married Eric Chavez. It didn't work out because of health. Shocker, most of these long-term deals don't, right?
Nope.
Name me one guy starting from 2000 that went on, left the A's, had a long-established career, and was worth a boatload of money.
Yeah, no, I was doing that for effect. There's not someone I could think of. People are going to say, well, Cespedes.
There's nobody. Giambi ended up having tumors because even though he played a long time, friend of the program, love Jason Giambi. I'm not trying to speak ill on any of these guys. I'm just stating facts. Giambi held a press conference that he apologized to the New York media, but didn't say what he was apologizing for. Anybody remember that?
Yeah, I do.
He had a press conference that was carried live nationally to say sorry, but he wouldn't say what he was saying sorry for. And he had tumors. Because what happens when you take human growth hormones and stuff, it speeds up everything in the body. And if you have some tumors, it can cause, even though thank God they weren't cancerous, it can cause them to grow. He had problems. Miguel Tejada had some good years, but Nothing that was like, oh my God, look at the long-term and longevity.
Here's a guy the A's dodged the bullet on because he signed a major contract and he was kept off a postseason roster, Barry Zito, who they just honored this past weekend. And like Barry, I was there yesterday to watch the Pirates lose in walk-off fashion, but to watch what the ceremony, because they had it on at the wedding reception I was at, they had the ceremony, the way they treated Barry Zito like he won every big game in the postseason for them. They were like, he was up there in front with he won Game 5 in the NLCS.
He was big. He was
that
big.
World Series. He was good. That playoff,
in
yes.
2012, he was huge for them.
But what about the 6 years prior when everyone hated him?
Wow, look at you just hating on Zito. But you're right. There's a great example. Mark Mulder.
He was out of the league a couple years after he left the A's.
I mean, the one guy that stayed a long time, I wouldn't say greatness, but Tim Huddy. He ended up having Tommy John, but he had he had good, solid years for the Atlanta Braves. He'd be one where I'd actually give you. I'd say, well, you would have had him long term. He would have given you innings. He would have given you games. Huddy might be a Cespedes. What the hell did Cespedes do other than a home run derby?
Yeah, well, a lot of our fans would say that he should have been a guy they kept. Or Sonny Gray.
Oh, yeah, I know. Everybody, you got to sign Sonny. You got to sign Sonny. No.
Having a nice year this year.
No, Sonny, no.
How'd New York work out?
No. I mean,
friend of the program, too.
My guy who didn't get along with the front office, so there's no way they re-sign him. One guy you make case, Donaldson.
Yeah, he's played.
And playing well again now.
Yeah. I mean, he was great with Minnesota Atlanta. Before he went to Minnesota. He was great for Atlanta. Went to Minnesota.
That calf injury.
Got all that money. Didn't play well in Minnesota. Now he's doing okay for the Yankees.
Yeah, lately been hot. So, I mean, look, how many guys are we talking about that you wanted to, oh my God, we got Townie. We got to have this guy. We want to sign this guy. We're talking commitments. The Nando deal is 14 years. 14. How many players since 2000 in the Billy Beane era, you sign them to a 14-year deal? That wouldn't have been an absolute train wreck. I look at you again, my A's historian.
There isn't anyone.
There isn't anyone.
Like you said, the only guy you would maybe consider would have been Hudson.
Everybody wants to ink these guys up. Hell, I don't know why.
Hudson might be the only one.
Okay, let's examine Tim Hudson. And Tim Hudson, now pitching coach. He's still pitching coach at Auburn.
Auburn,
right?
yeah.
War Eagle. Tim Hudson would leave the Oakland Athletics, go 14-9 with a 3.52, start 29 games.
That's the first year after?
That's first year after.
Okay.
How do you rate that? In the National League, a 3.52.
That's not bad.
Not bad. Next year, 35 starts, but had a 4.86 ERA and went 13-12.
Down year.
The next year, 16-10, 3.33, 34 starts.
Pretty good.
All right. 11-7, 22 starts, 11-7 with a 3.17 ERA.
That's solid.
Only 142 innings.
It must have got hurt.
Yeah, this is where 33. This is the Tommy John. He only gave you 7 starts.
Comes back the next year, 17-9 with a 2.83 and 34 starts. That's pretty good.
33 starts, 16 and 10, then 28 starts, 16-7, and then the rest nothing. So I mean, you would have got, as you said, 1, 2, 3, 4. You would have got 5 good years.
Yeah, with Atlanta, he was 113-72 with a 3.56.
You got 5 good years. What's that worth?
Yeah, he wouldn't have gotten 14 years.
10-year, 8-year deal? You only got 5 good years.
When he left, he was 29. So, the model was different back then. He would have got 10 years. If you're going off today's model, you give him a 5-year deal for maybe 100. That's what Kevin Gausman got. Was it 5 for 120?
I mean, he's the only guy. You're like, look at Yoenis Cespedes.
The guy was out of the league a few years later.
I mean, this is crazy how we went from, oh my God, we have something so special here in Oakland, to the best year he had. So we trade him. Then in 2015, in Detroit and New York, because he kept getting traded, he'd have what? 35 home runs, 105 RBIs. Really good. 2016, 31 home runs, 86 RBIs. And then career was over. His career was over at 30. And you wanted to link him down. I mean, you want to give him 8 years? 8 years? Be careful what you wish for. This Tatis Jr. contract should, I mean, they should actually frame this and put it in every general manager's office in baseball. Every president, every owner, and every GM. Think long and hard before you give somebody $300 million. Think long and hard before you guarantee 14 years of somebody's life. Be careful what you wish for, fans, because you get one of this and celebration, we got the best young player, has turned into an absolute nightmare. Earlier today, Stephen Woods from Ben & Woods, the flagship station in San Diego for the San Diego Padres, joined me, and we're talking about Fernando Tatis. And San Diego went from a celebration to a, oh my God, what's happening? Stephen, thank you so much for coming on A's Cast Live. I can't imagine what it's like to do sports talk radio down in San Diego right now. It's like an absolute gift. You got the total present that is Juan Soto, and here's the Padres, and they're going for it. And then all of a sudden, you have the crash that is Tatis. Wow, what a wild week it's been down in Southern California.
No question. And you know, unfortunately, we're getting a little bit too used to the Tatis roller coaster here. And you know, I'll start by saying it was a absolute kick in the gut come Friday, sitting in my son's preschool, waiting for my wife to come with my other son, and we're picking up my little guy and going to take him out to dinner for a big celebration. And that news came across my Twitter feed, and I mean, it was like panic almost. It was an emotional, visceral reaction, you know, to seeing that news, and you just can't believe it, you know. And then it's been an entire, you know, the 5 stages of grief all weekend, and going through it and talking about it on the air today with our audience. I mean, it's been a rough one, to be sure. It's a tough thing to swallow.
Oh my God. I mean, the story broke right when we were ending our show and heading into pregame, which all of a sudden you go into a pregame, it's no longer you're doing a talk show. So it changed. So we were only able to really talk about it a little bit because, we should have kept talking about it because no one was really interested in Astros A's. But, you know, what people really need to understand, like young athletes have screwed up a lot. Like that's not something new. But the big difference here, you know, we can talk about shoulder separations. We can talk about motorcycle accidents. We can talk about steroids. We can talk about ringworm. You can look at all of that. But the big thing here is that this young man was given one of the largest contracts in the history of American sports. We're talking $340 million with all this going on. It's one thing if he's got like a 2-year, $25 million contract. I mean, Stephen, we're talking $340 million guaranteed. It's crazy.
It is. And that's what I think has led people to speculate so wildly, you know, of how this could happen, why it would happen. I'll say off the get-go, nobody really buys the ringworm story. And, you know, you see 3 or 4 of these every year. I would never knowingly take a performance-enhancing drug. I would never put anything into my body, but you did, and you have, and now you failed the drug test. And, you know, I talked to enough people to know that this drug in and of itself is not going to do a whole lot. But when you add it to other performance-enhancing drugs, it actually helps quite a bit. So, you know, I thought it was the biggest misstep of the entire weekend, other than actually failing the drug test, you know, the excuse. And, you know, we talked about it on the air today and on our show, and I just said, look, the one I never will understand why these guys don't come right out day one, and basically the Andy Pettitte, right? Yeah, I did. to get back on the field. I haven't played forever. My guys are in the middle of a pennant race, and I thought it would help get me back on the field, and that's ultimately what I want to do. But when you lay these excuses out, and it's just been a pattern. And I know Padres general manager AJ Preller. I mean, really, honestly, we've been covering Tatis since his debut. We were there in the dugout day one. I've known him for a while, and he's a good kid. I mean, make no mistake, like, he's a good kid. Rain delays, the dude is out of the locker room signing balls for little kids. When there was a shooting in Washington, Fernando was helping pull people into the dugout. He's a good person and a good kid who continues, though, especially over the last year or so, to make mistake after mistake and try to cover things up when in reality, I mean, the truth shall set you free. And it's like you tell your kids, tell me the truth. You're going to be in way less trouble. If I find out you covered it up, then you're toast. And all it's been, for the last year or so, has just been cover up after cover up and misinformation and disinformation and a bad attitude, getting kind of lippy with reporters when they ask him about his motorcycle accident, and you respond, well, which one? Those are the kind of things that a 22, 23-year-old kid that has $300 million guaranteed, you're seeing the ego really win out when common sense is just not prevalent in that kid's life right now.
There's an article in The Athletic today, and I just know this, having been in baseball a long time. We all know our teams better than anybody else. And I'm reading this article, take it for what it's worth. But in this article in The Athletic, they talk about how Tatis opted not to undergo shoulder surgery when recommendation was to do it. His comeback now with the wrist, maybe trying to come back too early. And then this person, the source, says, not surprised at all. He does whatever he wants. So has there been a culture around the Padres that from the time he's coming up as a young superstar, he's done whatever they've wanted and they've always turned a blind eye?
Yeah, I mean, I can't sit here in good conscience and say that I haven't heard the exact same things. And I don't, I'll be honest with you, I don't know how uncommon that is. We all went to high school, right? I went to high school. You guys went to high school. I
went to Crawford High School in San Diego.
Oh, beautiful. I've played baseball at Crawford many times. It's athlete culture, guys. I mean, I also went to Holy Cross College, home of Rudy, right? So I'm right across the street from Notre Dame. I was a bartender at a Notre Dame college. All my buddies were Notre Dame football players, lacrosse players. Guys, this stuff's been going on forever. And it goes in high school. And these days, it goes in middle school. I mean, guys are getting scouted by Alabama at age 14. This is a problem. And the lack of accountability is a problem. I saw Rex Chapman tweeting yesterday about how he was given grades in college. Yeah, just give him a B. It's passive, right? We need him on the team. At some point, it's all of our responsibility to make our own decisions. Absolutely. But when you grow up in that culture of everything handed to you, the thing that really irks me the most, and I said it today, is, you've got a father that had a long, successful career in Major League Baseball. You were supposed to know better. And it seemed when he came up that he did. I mean, our talking points on him for years were, oh, dude, he gets it. Day one, the guy's not nervous. He knows he belongs there. Like, he is a fit. And he was. And he's been so fabulous and fun to watch and cover. And after this latest, with the motorcycle thing, I think the shine started to come off of him a little bit when he wasn't being accountable at all to the organization, to the fans. His father in the media saying, no, there was no accident. I mean, it's just a constant cover-up going on for the last year or so. So make no mistake, that's not a new thing in sports. A superstar being able to have carte blanche and do what he wants. I mean, in these days, like I said, it starts in friggin' middle school sometimes. Tatis is no different whatsoever from everybody. It doesn't make it okay, and it's not an excuse. But I mean, we've seen this forever.
We learned a lot about performance-enhancing drugs as up here in the Bay Area. We were the epicenter with the Balco scandal. And I'll never forget when A-Rod finally had to come clean, and we speculated it in Texas. What we never speculated was he doing it when he was a Mariner and he was young and getting 200 hits, and because everything was on Griffey and the big unit. So I want to ask this about Tatis. When I look at his numbers right now, and he comes onto the scene at 20. Obviously, in the COVID year, a shortened season, still had great numbers. Last year, the 42 home runs. A lot of people speculate maybe he was worried about the wrist. Maybe he was trying to get healthy, like Andy Pettitte was trying to get healthy faster. But does it start to scare you that the skinny guy with unbelievable power may have been using longer than we think?
And I've been asked that question a lot. And, as somebody like you guys, right? You're in the Bay Area. Well, I grew up a Yankee fan. My dad was a Yankee fan. So I grew up a Yankee fan. And since I've had two sons and lived in San Diego for 13 years, I don't follow them much anymore. The Padres are my life and they're my kids' lives. And we're all Padres fans, season ticket holders, the whole thing. I was asked the question, I think the way we're all as sports fans, they kind of got us, right? They got us because we're just all assuming all the time that everyone is playing legit or everyone's playing dirty and only a few are getting caught. So I honest to God, I would say from my gut, I don't think so. But how am I ever going to know? And that's the question you ask. I have no earthly idea. And that's what a failed test does. That's what it does when this happens. You now have to go back and look at every single accomplishment he's ever had on the field. If he comes back from suspension without further incident and he is 1 for 30, what's the natural talking head reaction going to be? Well, I mean, when you're not juicing anymore. Now we all know too, taking testosterone or Winstrol or Deca or any other thing, the Balco, cream, and the clear, none of that guarantees superstardom. Because if it did, I bet you we would have had a lot more people popped for it. But somebody with his natural abilities like him, to keep him on the field, to strengthen weak areas, who's to say? I honestly don't think he did. But now I sit there at night and go, well, I wonder. And the other thing I ask myself, and I'm sure you guys have asked yourselves too, do I care? You got popped. This is on you now. It's going to hang over you for the rest of your life. You get a clean slate because, the rules now, 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes, you're out. You'd have to be a real buffoon to attempt fade again. So I guess there's some doubt looking back, but I think anything he does moving forward will be under the assumption that he's clean because no moron would put himself with that much money in that trouble again. Honestly, I just can't fathom that. Now, people have done dumber things than that, to be sure. But even him, I look at that and go, all right, I mean, if we're going to give him a pass once he's off suspension, I got to assume he's as clean as a whistle moving forward.
Let's end on this, and I want you to look into the crystal ball here, and we will always put the cart in front of the horse in sports talk. We always love to look ahead, even though we don't know the answers.
Oh, yeah.
You've got a $300 million contract with Manny Machado. He's balling, right? And I do believe
he's amazing.
I do think someday we'll see him in the Hall of Fame. We've dealt with him for years as an Oriole. You got this contract with Tatis Jr., and you bring in Juan Soto like this, people are gonna fall in love with him. You're gonna want to sign him. So in a few years,
already happened.
So you got a few years. Let's say in a few years, you got these 3 guys. You can't have all 3. It's too expensive. Who do you think in the end will have to go?
Great question. I mean, if you ask me right now today, I would say Tatis, but I don't, and there's legal ramifications there. I don't know if they could manipulate a contract. Not that I would necessarily want them to, but look, if you gave me those 3 and said you've got 2 of 3 for the next 10 years, Manny is my favorite baseball player. He's my kid's favorite baseball player. Manny's also 7, 8 years older than both of those guys and plays 158 games a year. Give me Tatis and Soto, and I'll see what I can do for the next decade. Even though I love Manny Machado with my entire heart, I'm thinking from a pragmatic business standpoint. Manny's got an opt-out in a couple of years. Don't know what he'll do with it. Maybe the drama here is too much for him, and he ends up opting out trying to get a better deal. And I don't know that that's out there, but he's sure playing like he's playing for that now. He's playing lights out. I would take my chances with a same age, a 25-year-old Tatis and Soto in the 2 and 3 hole for the rest of the decade anytime. I don't know any baseball fan that wouldn't.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of A's fans pulling for the Padres because our good friend Bob Melvin is down there and what Bob has meant to the A's for all these years. So, and even though the Dodgers have a big lead, and you can say this for all the teams chasing the wild card, you just got to get in, and once you get in, it's anybody's game. Hey, thank you so much for the time. We know you're on in the morning, and it's not easy. You don't really want to do much after work, so we appreciate it. We'll check in later during the season.
Guys, it's my pleasure. Call me anytime you need anything.
Interesting stuff. And I tell you what, for a town that is starving for success, I will give them this, and obviously a lot of you know I grew up there. I will give them this. The one thing that the Padres needed to do, which I don't know why we can't do it, is take advantage of the Chargers leaving town. Chargers left. Chargers went to L.A. There's a ton of people that said, we're done with you. We're done with football. You got your own town, your own market, and they're averaging 37,000 people. That was before Soto and Bell and Hader. Averaging 37,000. Now they got a new ballpark. Obviously, it's not new anymore, but they got the ballpark. It's downtown. But they've never had the success that we've had. I mean, we're just going to the playoffs every year. With no Raiders and no Warriors. See, the Warrior thing, people still trying to count like that. People still trying to act like that. Oh, they just moved across the bay. No, they left town. But I'm done talking about attendance. I'm done. I was done with that years ago. But I will give the Padres credit. Seidler is the guy's name who runs the team?
Yeah.
Chairman?
Peter Seidler.
I'll give him credit. They're all in, and the town's all in. And they're selling out now. They're getting 37. Now I don't know what a sellout is, 40?
Probably
42.
around there, yeah.
So they're all in. It's one thing that Bob Melvin said. And I've talked to Melvin about it. It's electric. Everywhere you go, people are talking about it. People are in. They're excited. This guy, you hear this guy? He's not even from San Diego, but now he's the biggest Padre fan ever. That's cool. I'm hoping we have that. I'm hoping we have a moment coming up here soon where everywhere you go, people are talking about it. It's all people talk about. It's all people care about. Everywhere you go, it's the hats. It's the merch. I'd love that. I own as much A's gear as anybody. I would love. I have 1 million hats, 1 million shirts.
Jerseys.
How about the new Last Dive Bar shirt today?
Let's catch up. An homage to Hal, the hot dog guy.
Huh? We got Sarah Langs coming on?
Yeah, she hasn't joined yet, but.
All right, coming up next, Sarah Langs from MLB.com. She always has nuggets for us next, right here on A's Cast Live.
By many names, but none better than the Last Dive Bar. Hi, everyone. Ken Korak here, and my friends at Last Dive Bar are helping us celebrate our longtime home. Last Dive Bar has the most unique merchandise for all Oakland baseball fans. T-shirts, sweatshirts, the Ray Fosse line, and my personal favorite, the lights have taken full effect. Visit their website at lastdivebar.com or follow them on social media at Last Dive Bar. All proceeds are invested back into the A's Community Fund and their affiliated charities. Go to lastdivebar.com. That's lastdivebar.com.
Hey, A's fans, your Athletics are back in town, and we're kicking off the series with a boom. That's right. Post-game fireworks presented by Lagunitas are back after Friday night's matchup against the Mariners. Friday, August 19th, join us at the ballpark when the A's take on the Mariners, and then head down to the field to see the best fireworks display in the Bay. August 19th fireworks presented by Lagunitas. Tickets start at just $15 and are available at athletics.com. That's athletics.com.
Humanity has accomplished a whole lot so far. We created penicillin, the automobile, and the internet, not to mention drones, duct tape, and the hot dog. It's all thanks to the power of human connections. And Ring Central's here to make that even easier, more seamlessly and securely, on a platform built to grow your business. Say hello to a whole new way to say hello. Visit ringcentral.com and say hello to possibilities. Ring Central. Message, video, phone, together.
Some things just go together. Peanut butter and jelly, cookies and milk, Oakland and Kaiser Permanente. If that last one caught you off guard, it shouldn't, because Kaiser Permanente has been helping keep Oakland healthy since our very beginning. And as the official healthcare partner of the Oakland A's, that won't be changing anytime soon. Whatever you may need, you can trust Kaiser Permanente to help keep you feeling your best. Kaiser Permanente. Thrive. Visit kp.org today.
Coming in at 5'3", it's #1 mom. She switched to Xfinity and got the all-new 3-for-1 bundle. Unlimited internet, streaming, and Xfinity Mobile. All for what you could pay wireless companies for just one 5G unlimited line. Boom shakalaka! Go to Xfinity.com/3-for-1, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit an Xfinity store today. Limited time offer, restrictions apply. Xfinity Mobile requires post-pay Xfinity internet. After 24 months, regular rates apply to all services and devices.
This is Chris Townsend for the Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek. Great news! Our indoor dining is back, along with our beautiful patio dining. Come taste our world-famous chicken pie that has been served in Southern California for 83 years. The Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek has one of the most dynamic menus, plus a full bar. Pot pies, gourmet burgers, sandwiches, salads, flatbreads, and more. Don't forget, we still do takeout and delivery. For all the information, go to chickenpieshopwc.com. That's chickenpieshopwc.com.
A's Cast Live continues from the town. Here's Chris Townsend.
I don't want to give out any negative stats here on the Athletics, but since the great Sarah Langs is coming on, this is the kind of stat, like if we asked her a question, she'd go back and research and find this stuff. Like, I just don't have the patience to find this kind of stuff. But this is for Sarah Langs when she comes on. The A's rank last in the majors in batting average at 215 and on base percentage at 277. The only teams in American League history. Now think about that. American League history is a long time. To bat under 217 in a season are the 1910 White Sox at 211 and the 1968 Yankees at 214. Lowest on-base percentage in AL history is 274. You know this team, right?
1968. Wait, read it again.
The lowest on-base percentage. How do you not know? This is like the easiest question in the world. Who's got the lowest on-base percentage in American League history at 274? This is probably standard, easy, trivial pursuit baseball question.
I feel like you're going in a facetious direction here, so I'm going to say Cleveland Spiders.
The 1905 Washington Senators. Sarah Langs from MLB.com here on A's Cast Live. How are you? We have missed you.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. And oh my gosh, I don't do negative stats, but those did not sound great at all. Not at all.
I mean, it's just to me, it just takes too much time to find that kind of stuff. Like if I'm searching and I'm finding the 1905 Washington Senators, there's got to be something better I can do with my life.
Probably. But, we always try to look on the bright side. So hopefully there is a bright side somewhere with that. And hey, they might finish the season batting a lot higher than 217. So you just have to hope for that.
Well, the two hottest stories in baseball are Fernando Tatis Jr. and your medical knowledge is about viruses because your mom's a virologist, so we're not going to go there. So we'll stay on the side of the second biggest story. Really is American League MVP. And we're starting to get articles. You're involved in it now as we're looking at, okay, here you got a guy playing in New York for the Yankees. I want to say, because I looked it up today, it's 54 games in center, 49 games in right, like 17 or 18 at DH. He's a monster. What was it? He's got what? 100 RBIs, 46 jacks, 96 runs scored, over 1,000 OPS. Judge is a monster, and he's playing every day. And then you got the guy out west playing for a terrible team in the Angels, and Ohtani, who, when he pitches, really darn good. And he's a DH, and he's really darn good. But he doesn't play every well defensively. So it's like you start looking at MVP, and Ohtani won it easily last year, so why not this year? Where are you weighing in on this Judge versus Ohtani? No offense to Yordan Alvarez or Jose Ramirez. They're having great years, but these two guys are the front runners.
For sure, they are. To me, I think it is Judge right now, and partially because he's going to set an American League record for home runs. Of course, the Yankee record is the American League record. And I think if we look back in history, like 10, 15 years from now, and he does something historic like that, and he didn't win MVP, we'll probably think that looks a little bit silly. For me, it has nothing to do with the team, nothing to do with the fact that the Yankees are that much better than the Angels. Ohtani is incredible. We almost need a different award for him. But I think given that he has such strong competition this year, it's probably Judge. But we're going to be having this conversation every year that Ohtani continues to do this.
Now, do you want to know who's going to disagree with you?
Who?
The rally monkey, the Angels. We got an actual have you ever seen an actual rally monkey?
I have not. I love it. Look at you.
Yeah. Well, we're playing the Rangers, so we got Nolan Ryan here. So we got a Nolan bobblehead here. We honor the people in our own division. We've got the Snow Globe Safeco Field. It's now T-Mobile Park. And
oh my gosh!
And the roof goes back. Yeah, we honor the people in our division. We love the people in our division. But this is a rally monkey right here. Everybody's been beating me over the head all these years about war and how important war is because it includes everything. Well, if everybody's been telling me for all these years how important war is, and Judge's war is better than Ohtani's, and you're counting Ohtani as a pitcher and a hitter, that tells you how good Judge is. And I just wonder, since, Ohtani has not gone every 5 days as a pitcher, and he's just a DH, how much of Judge playing in the field, and like I said, 54 games in center field, how much does that play into him having a better WAR?
I mean, it certainly helps him. He has a certain amount of defensive WAR, but I also think that's where kind of the intangibles play in. The time he spent in center field is probably the most valuable thing he's done for the Yankees all year. I know he's hitting all of these home runs, but they have a lot of guys who can hit. But they were really at a loss for a good center fielder for a good portion of the year. And the fact that he was able to move over there, have Giancarlo Stanton playing right when he was healthy, and just for them to have that alignment was really, really helpful to how the team was functioning. So I think even if his defensive WAR isn't a significant numerical factor, I think that gets to one of the intangibles about what has made him such a valuable player this year.
Yeah, it's crazy when, like, the A's are playing the Yankees and he's out in center field. It's like It's like watching an NBA power forward play center field. You're like, I just can't believe a guy that big is playing center field. It's crazy. I do agree, and I'm not gonna go on the one guy plays on a better team. I'm not where I mean, just when you look at the volume of what Judge gives you, I'm not so. If Ohtani goes out and he gives me 6 innings and he strikes out of time, it's like, okay, he gave me 6 innings. I now got to get these other innings, or he goes 5 or 6. I'm not impressed by pitchers who only give me 5 or 6. It just doesn't do much for me. What Judge is doing is incredible. He's a one-man wrecking crew, and he does it every day, and he's doing it in the field. I believe it plays a lot, and I am so rooting for him to break Roger Maris's record, and it has nothing to do with anything that you would think about. It actually is a personal thing for me, is Giant fans, and we'll count your mother, Giants fans have never had to come to grips truly with the cheating Bonds in 73. They've glossed over it for so many years. And you being in New York, and you being also someone who works on MLB Network, I think you're going to agree with me on this. When Aaron Judge hit 62, everybody in New York's going to go, that's the true record. Barry Bonds was on steroids. Barry Bonds should have the asterisk. And I believe the New York media is going to run over the soft San Francisco Giant media. They won't be able to handle it. They're going to try and defend Barry, but it's going to look ugly because you're defending PEDs essentially. I think for the first time, Giant fans are going to and Giants media, which basically they all are Giants fans. We know who they are. They're going to have to defend this, and it's not going to look good. And I can't wait to see it. I'm actually rooting for Aaron Judge.
Well, we'll see. I mean, what I will say is, I go with the numbers. So when I go to Baseball Reference, we have Sammy Sosa, we have Mark McGwire, we have Barry Bonds. They're listed right there. So, these numbers exist regardless of what may have happened, and root to them. But I do think there may be a narrative there. But even regardless, even not to, imply any fighting or anything like that, to break a record that has stood for so long in the American League. You were discussing the American League. Think of how many individual player seasons that is, and the fact that these are the New York Yankees, the most hallowed franchise in all of sports. I think that alone will be a really big deal. But he's on pace for 65 right now. I'm very excited to see where this goes.
When I think about the Yankees, and I never make crazy comments on this show. Everything is so calculated. I never get out over my skis here, Sarah. I did make a prediction back. Was it June, Cody, that I made the prediction about the Yankees?
Oh, yes, it was.
I made a guarantee in June that the Yankees won't go to the World Series and won't win the World Series, because when the A's were back there, everybody had already crowned them and wanted to make them champions. I go, they're too one-dimensional. And still to this day, like 52% of all their runs come from home runs. And what was it? They've only won 3 games. Now, when I had this stat, it was probably like a week ago, but they haven't been winning games. They've only won like 3 games this year where they didn't homer. So if they get into a postseason and they get into a series where they face anybody who's kind of hot, man, I don't know how much stock I'm buying in the Yankees as a playoff team. Would you agree or disagree?
I do think that we saw when they faced the Astros that they are not necessarily in the same class as the Astros. I think they were for a period of time this year, but I think early in the season they were probably overperforming a little bit. And now I think they're probably underperforming, but I think that true answer in the middle is still not as good as Houston. And we'll see. I mean, who knows what a hot Mariners team could look like in October. You just never know. But I do think exactly. I mean, hot with the snow, maybe a cold team. Maybe that's a good thing for the snow globe. Who knows? But regardless, I do think that we've seen the issues with their pitching staff, especially over the last month to 2 months here. Their bullpen is in pretty dire straits right now with how Clay Holmes has been pitching, the injury to Michael King, all of that. So we'll see where they end up. I mean, I agree, it's certainly a one-dimensional offense. I think they have the ability to be better offensively, but I worry about that pitching overall. And again, when you're facing these really good pitchers in the playoffs, as you said, if you can't hit those home runs, you could be in a really tough spot.
Well, I'll tell you what, talk about pitching and breaking news, watching what the Dodgers have done, winning 12 straight. Obviously, that ended yesterday in Kansas City. They're trying to tie the record for the LA Dodgers. It was like 62 and can't remember the other year, but that 13 straight was the record since they moved west in 1958. They fall one short. And there's been all this talk about, look how great the Dodgers have been without Walker Buehler, and without Clayton Kershaw. The breaking news that just came down right before you came on, we were commercial break. Walker Buehler is done for the season. He is going to have season-ending elbow surgery. They're not saying what kind. It's a flexor strain, so I got to think it's Tommy John, right?
Not that kind of doctor, not related to that kind of doctor.
But what you can talk about is
100%.
no Buehler, knowing he's not coming back. Dodgers have been great without these guys, and they've been getting tremendous starting pitching. How much do you worry once you get into the playoffs and everybody's records are 0-0 and you don't have Walker Buehler?
You do wonder about it. I mean, they do still have Dustin May coming back. He threw an immaculate inning in his rehab start the other night. By all accounts, he's looked really good. But, I mean, I was talking about Buehler earlier today on a podcast and said, hey, getting him back will be such a big thing for this team. But then you look at that streak that you mentioned, not just 12 straight, but 12 straight, all by multiple runs. That's a testament not just to the offense, but also to the pitching staff. So I think that they will be able to endure it. But you do start to wonder, I mean, the National League right now, top two teams, you have the Dodgers and the Mets. And maybe this puts, I mean, who's going to want to face Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer in a postseason series? So now it's an advantage going to the Mets, maybe rotation-wise, even with the fact that deGrom's health is kind of always hanging there as a question mark. I'm not sure, but if any team can rebound from news like this, it is the Dodgers. He hasn't pitched in 2 months, so, they've been doing this without him anyway.
It's funny. I've just been watching The Captain, we've all been watching the documentary and it's fantastic, on Derek Jeter. And I don't know if I'm on the fourth one where they went through the Subway Series and talking about how crazy the Subway Series was in 2000. It was a long time ago, but you think back to the Clemens and Piazza and what that time was like in New York City. Everybody had a dog in the fight, and it was the first time two New York teams had hooked up in the World Series for a long time. Hey, you never know. I'm looking at the Mets now. They're still leading and they got a big series starting tonight with the Atlanta Braves. But what's it like in New York City right now with the Yankees and the Mets?
Well, there's certainly a lot of excitement. The Yankees, despite having, the second best record in the American League, the fans are not happy right now. They haven't been playing well overall, especially over this last month or so. So I would say the two fan bases are probably in slightly different spots, but it's really cool for the city when both of these teams are good. We saw it with the 2-game series between them at the end of July, the Subway Series. The Mets swept, and Mets fans were going off about how big of a deal it was. It was a 2-game series in July. Let's see what happens in October and November. But regardless, the energy at those games. I mean, I was just watching on TV doing my job, and I could feel the energy through the TV. There's so much excitement about these teams, about baseball in New York. And, I love to see that. I love anything that gets people excited about baseball.
Well, it's funny. in the captain when they're talking to Jeter about it. I would cut if I did a talk show in New York and I was a Mets guy, I would be running this over and over because Jeter was hilarious. He was like, everybody was making a big deal about it, but to us, I mean, they're just the Mets. Like, it's the Mets. Like, who cares? It's the Mets. And Jeter, at one point in the outtakes, they showed it, and he goes, man, I know people are going to come after me about this, but come on, it was just the Mets. It's just the Mets. Why? The Yankees don't sweat the Mets, right?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that's kind of the nature of it, right? The Mets are the newer team to New York. They're the younger team. They're the historically less successful team, 2 World Series, 27 World Series championships. But you never know, what could happen if they do face off in the World Series. But there's definitely some of that sort of like little sibling mentality, something like that, where I think the Mets fans tend to care more about the outcome against the Yankees than maybe vice versa.
So I was watching when I got the report yesterday, Rasmussen, has a perfect game going. So I turned it on my computers watching A's Astros. I was almost turning it on as much to know I can't wait for Tampa to pull him early so then I can rag on it the next day. And, of course, they end up pulling him anyway, but he gives up the hit and the run. But it's the 10th year anniversary of King Felix throwing a perfect game. We haven't had a perfect game since, and the longest drought was Catfish Hunter with the A's when the A's moved west in 1968 to Lynn Barker in 1981. We got a major drought going, perfect games. Kind of shocked by that with all the strikeouts and weak contact and low batting average. Are you shocked that we haven't had a perfect game recently?
It is surprising. I think it's funny. I believe that 2 or 3 of the no-hitters last year, when we had a handful of them, were one play away from being a perfect game. John Means, there was the drop third strike. And then I believe there were 2 others where there was either one walk, one hit by pitch, something like that. I believe Rodon hit someone in the 9th, maybe, kind of like Scherzer did way back in whatever that would have been, 15. But anyway, we've been so close to the idea of a perfect game. It almost feels random to me just because we have seen a proliferation of no-hitters. We had all of those no-hitters last year, a ton of bids this year. But, it's a lot to go out there and, strike out 10 guys and not walk anyone, something like that. We don't even see that many of those kinds of outings these days, let alone doing that and also not having anyone get a hit or anything else like that. But it is fascinating that in this era of so many no-hitters, we still haven't gotten to another perfecto. But I know that Mariners fans kind of take that as their badge of pride. I know there's some Mariners fans who celebrate when the perfect bids are over because they want Felix to still have the most recent one. So we'll see how much longer that keeps going for them. I really thought he was going to do it yesterday. I really, really did.
Jorge Mateo, former A's prospect. He came over in the Sonny Gray trade, broke it up, and later would score on a wild pitch. All right, let's end on this. I'm going to so now we're in a true playoff format, which I love. We came out with all the dates today. It could be a cold World Series if we're playing in November. But I'm going to take out the number 1 and 2 seeds. You cannot pick them. So that's the Astros, Yankees in the American League, and that's the Dodgers and the Mets in the National League. Out of the rest of the guys that are remaining as of right now, that's Rays, Guardians, Mariners, Blue Jays, Phillies, Cardinals, Padres, Braves. If you could buy stock because you want to make a lot of money, it's not cheap to live in New York City in the box you live in there in Manhattan. If you had to pick one of those teams and you're going to buy stock in one of those teams, which one would it be?
I think it has to be the Braves, partially because they did this last year. They had the lowest winning percentage entering the month of August for any eventual World Series champion. They were below 500 entering August. They went at the trade deadline, remade their outfield, made up for that Acuna injury. The bullpen got so good in the postseason. And why would Brian Snitker not be able to rally the troops that way again? They called up Michael Harris at the end of May, and then they went on that huge win streak. Now they called up Vaughn Grissom. A couple of days ago, he's already hit 2 home runs. I saw a tweet like 20 minutes ago about him working out with Ron Washington on the field, the classic infield defense, school with Ron Washington. If he is doing that, he knows what he's doing. So I think if I'm taking a team outside those 4, I would go with the Braves. But again, I mean, are we really going to see, speaking of droughts, are we really going to see a back-to-back champ? I don't know.
Been a long time since the Yankees went back-to-back.
A very long time, the longest drought ever that we've ever had. And, that speaks to how difficult it is to get through this grind. And now, of course, with that extra round, the Braves, if they were to do that, assuming they don't overtake the Mets there, would have to get through a lot to do it.
Well, it is great to see you. Thank you so much for the time. You be well. We'll be watching you. We'll be reading you. We'll be just following on Twitter. We'll just be following the multimedia career that is the great Sarah Langs.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you. So great to see you guys. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Sarah Langs. Nobody better. Follow on Twitter.
At S Langs on sports.
There you go. And she just puts nugget after nugget after nugget out every single night. Do the people responding love Sarah Langs as much as we do?
No one said anything yet, but there are people watching, so they must.
I mean, how do you not love Sarah Langs?
I mean,
she's going with the Bravos. Hey, by the way, how many guys under 25 do the Bravos have now with Grissom up?
Let's see. Grissom, Michael Harris, Acuna,
Albies. That's 4.
I think William Contreras, their catcher, is under 25.
5?
Their starting rotation, most of them are under 25. They're either 25 or under 25.
So the world champs have a bunch of dudes under 25 who didn't have 1,500 innings pitched, 1,500 at bats, 500 innings pitched. I mean, my God. As you saw today, Chris Woodward, he gone. 4 managers fired already this year. So you want to preach patience and time? Man, most people don't have patience and time. And he just got it. Once again, he just got an extension for 2023. He had an option for 2024. You know what? Chad Pinder gets 1,500 at-bats in the minor leagues, and that's great.
Seth Brown.
Sky
Bolt.
They're going to get. You know what? Daniel Susac, who was just drafted, if he's that good, he doesn't do 1,500.
Hit his first home run on Saturday night.
You're a top draft pick out of college, 2 years, and let's go. How long? Posey wasn't even 2 years.
Yeah, I don't think so. He's right out of Florida State.
I mean, he played. I know I think it was in his second year he got called up.
2000. What do you call it? 2010 would have been his rookie year. He won Rookie of the Year that year.
Yeah, that's the first year they won the World Series.
Yeah, I don't know if he got called up early in 2009, or at some point. But let's see. Posey's first full year was played 7 games in 2009, 108 in 2010. So
yeah, so he did not start with the big club in 2010. He got called up, and the rest is history.
Yeah, his first game in that year would have been.
So put it this way, Buster Posey played in 115 minor league games. That's it.
His first game was May 29th of 2010.
That's it. No 1,500 at-bats. Stop it.
We don't have time, but I have a whole list of guys.
I had him because Grady Fuson was on with Vince Cotroneo. Vince asked him the question because that is the old standard numbers, right? 500 innings pitched, 1,500 at-bats. And then we see if he's ready for the big leagues. What?
How many bats do you think Posey had in the minors? This is over three partial seasons.
It's small because he would have been drafted, so he would have got a couple months. It's not way under 500.
No, 630.
630.
It's still under the 1,500.
Yeah, 1,500. Once again, Chad Pinder gets 1,500. Seth Brown gets 1,500. The guys who can really play, everyday players, guys who are going to have long careers as everyday players, that doesn't happen anymore. I heard JT Snow talk about this, and JT had over 1,500 at-bats. But it's like, if we're still doing this, I just don't. Is Robert here? Robert was breaking news today. Robert, how are you? Welcome back to A's Cast Live.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me. Been a very busy day, even though the trade deadline is 2 weeks over from now. So
wow. Congratulations on breaking the Walker Buehler news.
I appreciate that big time. That's a huge blow for the Dodgers, although not totally unexpected, but still a massive blow for them.
Now, is this going to be his second Tommy John surgery?
So they don't know exactly what this surgery is going to be. They're entering it basically blind right now. Neil ElAttrache, the doctor who's performing the surgery, recommended that he undergo a procedure just to see what exactly the issue is. So the Dodgers, they're being pretty vague on what the injury is and also the timetable. So they should know more once this is over. But this is obviously not the kind of development that they wanted here.
No, and they're just coming off winning 12 straight. I know they lost yesterday in Kansas City, but they've been rolling. They've been just beating people up, and they've been doing it without Buehler and Kershaw. But once you get to the postseason, how much does this change the Dodgers not having this guy who has been their lead guy?
Yeah, it changes everything. And he's the kind of guy who can go toe-to-toe with the best pitchers in the league. And the fact they don't have him, that is going to create some different matchup problems for Dave Roberts. I mean, he's got experience doing it in the past, of course. So, he's not a first-time guy going into this. But not having Walker Buehler, it makes the rotation vulnerable and puts a lot more pressure on that offense that they've spent so much money on in the years past and even this year to perform. Same with the bullpen, too, and their other starters to step up as well.
Yeah, when we have injuries now or even at the beginning of August, it was panic, but we had the waiver wire process. There was still an opportunity, right, that you might be able to find somebody. Most players at one point in their career would have been put on waivers. Now that that's gone, great for the fans' trading deadline. What does that do for these front offices to where they don't have that safety net?
Yeah, it makes it a lot more difficult for them, and it places pressure on them before the trade deadline to make those kind of moves. And we got to see some movement after the trade deadline with a bunch of these veteran players get designated for assignment. Some teams claimed them off waivers. Franmil Reyes was one of them who did not last long on the waiver wire. That was somebody that the Cubs ended up pouncing on pretty quickly. And then specifically for the Dodgers in this case, they're more well-equipped to handle this because they have Dustin May returning from the injured list, and they're going to be careful not to overwork him. Now that he's coming back from Tommy John surgery, they're also going to have Danny Duffy come back. He's only going to pitch out of the bullpen, but still that provides another arm. But to answer your question about the waiver wire, yeah, it makes things a lot more challenging for these front offices, and it places pressure on them to add depth whenever they have the opportunity to do so.
I guess you would say the Mets are the biggest challenge, but maybe you see somebody else in the National League. Who do you think is the biggest challenge to the Dodgers?
Yeah, the Mets are clearly the team that stands out. And I'll give you two of them, actually. I'll give you the Atlanta Braves because they were there last year, and they advanced to the postseason, or they advanced and won the World Series. And they have a team that is really, really, really good. Their pitching staff, they just optioned Ian Anderson, who is their most vulnerable starter, and the rest of the rotation is phenomenal. Their offense, led by Austin Riley and Matt Olson, has been great. Michael Harrison, he's just been a great addition ever since they called him up from Double-A. And then I'll also give you the St. Louis Cardinals too. They are a team that year in and year out, I don't know what it is, but they just seem to always compete. And this year, their biggest need was rotation, and they ended up getting Jose Quintana and Jordan Montgomery, even though everybody was clamoring for them to get Juan Soto. And they've surged out of the trade deadline and look like the team to beat the Central. So I'll give you those two teams. This is the biggest competition for the Dodgers.
Kind of the big hot stories we got. Not only the playoff schedule coming out, and we've got the brackets and everything, how it looks, and it's a lot of fun to look at. It's all obviously Ohtani versus Judge, American League MVP, but it's also Tatis. And we talked to a show host down in San Diego. They're devastated. And there's, whether you're talking about the shoulder problems that he's had, the wrist problems, now steroids. It's like you throw all that immaturity and everything that's going on, falling off the motorcycles at more than once. You're still talking 14 years and $340 million, one of the biggest contracts in the history of professional sports. What a gamble. To me, the immaturity, the issues, the steroids, my God, just talk about the whole situation with the Padres and this huge contract that they have hanging around their neck.
No, you're spot on with that. And it's something that the Padres need to solve quickly. And AJ Preller has even gone on the record, and he made some very strong comments, which we have not heard from Preller since he went to San Diego. Like, that was the most stern he's ever been in a press conference. And he's got every right to be upset with this. Like, Fernando Tatis, he committed $340 million to this player who hadn't even played a full season in the majors. And he's suffered all these injuries, and now he's suspended for 80 games when they were just on the brink of getting him back. And like, this entire situation, like, his dad ended up going on the record and said this was because of a haircut. And it was like, I'll tell you, like, there's people who don't believe that the ringworm story is legit. Like, it actually is real. From the reporting that I've done, I've confirmed it. And he ended up taking a substance that contained this banned substance, and it resulted in the suspension. But it was on him to confirm that it was within protocol, and he didn't do that. And that's ultimately on him. And I wonder now, like, this is just me completely speculating. But I wonder, now that he's got all this time to recover away from baseball, I wonder if he undergoes that surgery on his shoulder to repair it. Because there was a lot of people who ultimately believed that he was going to need it at some point. Now he's got the time to do it. It would make sense to me. I haven't heard it, but first he really needs to, like, look in the mirror and reflect and grow from this, because if not, then this could look like a $340 million mistake for the Padres.
So let's get back to the ringworm, because there's multiple ways to cure ringworm. Mm-hmm. And this is a PED that's linked to other PEDs. So it's like, if I just took this just because of ringworm and I had a legit doctor, I would fight this till the cows come home, because even though the big money kicks in later, he's still going to lose a couple million. I think it's like $3 million or whatever. Yep. Wouldn't there be a much bigger fight if this was really just about curing ringworm from a haircut?
Yeah, I mean, to me, there would be. And I believe at first he actually did appeal this thing, but ultimately he ended up just accepting the suspension. And you're right. I'm curious why there hasn't been more of a fight from Tatis in his camp, but ultimately they decided not to do it. They accepted the punishment. And I'll tell you, like, the Padres, they're equipped to overcome this thing here, but not having Tatis back, that is such a huge blow. And it places a lot more on the shoulders of Juan Soto, that pitching staff. And when he eventually returns, or even before he returns, he's got to answer a lot of questions, because players in that clubhouse, specifically Mike Clevinger and some others, they were like, this is the second time he's disappointed us. And now he needs to own up to it. So I'm curious to see how he responds to that too.
Yeah, I know this would be a whole brouhaha with the players union, but like, for the Padres right now, they would love to take that $340 million, take it back, give it to Juan Soto, and add some money to it so they could sign Juan Soto. To make these huge commitments that we're seeing. I mean, right now, Mike Trout, bad back, we don't know. Anthony Rendon, out for the year. It's been a dumpster fire. But a way for you to get out of these contracts from a PED standpoint, I don't think they'll ever do it, but I know that from a business, it'd be like, okay, if you get popped for PEDs once or twice, I got to be able to get out of this deal, because no matter what, they're still going to owe him over $300 million, and it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah, and you're right. I would be floored, and I mean floored, if they ended up rescinding this contract or voiding it, because that would just be a legal nightmare. But the fact that this has happened and the shoulder injury and the motorcycle stuff has happened, yeah, I mean, if I still think the Padres would do this deal just because Tatis he's a generational talent. And if you end up looking at what he did when he was healthy, that's what they picture him doing for the next 10 plus years. So yeah, I still think they would do this thing, even though there's been like this much gone wrong so quickly. But yeah, I'll tell you, like this is another reason why. I mean, maybe not like a perfect example, but the other guys you mentioned before, like Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon, even Albert Pujols before that, why we don't see these 10 plus year contracts is they rarely work out. Tatis was different just because he was 21 or 22 when he signed it. So he was going to be done when he was in his age 36 season. But yeah, I'll tell you, those are becoming a rarity. And I think Soto's is going to be the next, but after that, I don't know how many of those we're going to see.
The press conferences look great, right? The unity and the GM and the managing general partner and everything looks great. And we're going to have this guy forever. It's just like, they just don't work out. Or if you're Mike Hampton with the Rockies, if you remember, he just liked the school districts. It wasn't about the money or the years. It was about the school districts. I want you to weigh in. Everybody's weighing in on it because X amount of games to go. People want to talk AL MVP, Judge, Ohtani. Where would you go?
This is a hot take because a lot of people are going with Aaron Judge, but I'm going with Shohei Ohtani with this. And this is not to discredit what Aaron Judge has done this season because he's been brilliant. What Judge has done this year has been, 46 home runs, 100 RBI already. This early into the season is extremely impressive. But if you look at Shohei Ohtani, he's got 26 homers this year. His numbers are slightly down offensively from what they were last year, but his pitching numbers have been extremely good, to the point where they're like ace level. And we're looking at a player who's basically like a Max Scherzer and a Matt Olson type combined. And yeah, the Angels aren't doing that well this season, but I still think that Ohtani deserves the MVP this year. And I was running this exact scenario by somebody even the other day, and he was like, if Shohei Ohtani does not win the MVP, it is the biggest, baffling decision, or the most baffling decision in baseball history. That may be like a bit of a strong comment, but that's what he said. And he's a very trusted baseball executive. So I listen whenever he says something, but even though he said it, even with him saying that, I have to agree. I would go with Shohei Ohtani, and that's not a slight at Aaron Judge, just how good Shohei Ohtani is.
It's a fascinating debate because I can see it. A good debate is when you can see both sides.
Yep.
To me, it's not one-sided because I could see the Judge crowd goes, wait a minute, this guy hasn't been pitching every 5 days, and he's a DH. My guy's out there playing center field. He's playing right field. He's playing defense. He's hitting all these home runs. He's driving in runs. He's got walk-off hits, walk-off wins. He's been a monster. So, it's a really, when people are going to have to put their name on it and they're going to have to vote, because, no disrespect, Yordan Alvarez is fantastic. He beats the hell out of the A's. We see it. And Jose Ramirez continues to be a terrific player. But obviously this will come down to Judge and Ohtani. And you can make a case for both guys, and really both cases are good.
Yeah, both cases are extremely strong. And I'm kind of hoping that I don't have to be part of that voting for the MVP just because, it's going to end up being whoever votes for whoever is going to get ridiculed one way or another. But no matter who gets it, as you said, you can see both sides of this argument. And I don't think there's a wrong decision here. But I'll tell you, baseball's in really good hands at the same time. We got Ohtani, who's just getting started, Aaron Judge, who's 30 years old and still has a lot more left. And we have all these other players too. It speaks to the overall talent we have in baseball. And we've seen it reflect in the numbers, throughout the the broadcast and everything. Numbers are skyrocketing right now, which is it's a great thing. And it's because of this talent and because of these debates and the ones we're having right now too.
Well, when you guys vote, they put you in different categories. So you're saying you rather have Rookie of the Year versus MVP?
Okay, I'd rather have MVP. MVP. Yeah. You got me there. That's well done. I like that. That's good. Yeah.
Cy Young Award winner. Here we go. No, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to talk about. Something that has now gotten interesting. I mean, normally, let me tell you, getting ready for this, the Texas Rangers are 23 games out of first place, while our beloved A's are 33 and a half games out of first place. So when you say A's Rangers 4-game set in Arlington, most people aren't running to their television sets. But Chris Woodward fired today. You know, we've talked a lot to the Ranger people. You know, you look at the money that Seager got, you look at the money Simeon got, and they said, hey, listen, this is all part of the plan. John Daniels, Chris Young, that they understand they're not going to win now. They're going to spend more money on pitching in the offseason. They got money with the new ballpark. They're going to be ready to spend. We heard all this kind of stuff. And then, bang, they fired Woodward, who got an extension for next year and an option for the next. And I say, okay, you fire this guy. Then you realize 4 managers have been fired in season. That's 14% of the managers in Major League Baseball have been fired. And you know more will get fired at the end of the year. What does that tell you?
That there's a lot of pressure on these managers to perform and win now. And like we got to see it earlier in the year. Joe Girardi, I believe, was the first one with Philadelphia. And they've come out of the gates just flying after that. Like Rob Thompson is like seriously in consideration to get that job full time. The Angels have been basically the exact opposite of that after firing Joe Maddon. I will say, though, like the fact that Chris Woodward got this extension that you just mentioned, it really surprises me that he got fired. And when the report surfaced earlier today that he was fired, I'm like, I stopped in my tracks. I was in the middle of a workout, actually, and I was just like, like why would they do this? And like even entering this year after signing like for $500 million, they ended up getting Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. They knew this year they weren't going to be in a position where they were going to be able to like compete with the upper class in the American League. This was going to end up being a multi-year thing. And Woodward was a guy they identified as a person to do that. And ultimately they ended up having a change of heart like throughout the year with some of the decisions he was making and like some of the direction of the franchise, that he wasn't going to be the guy. And I think what this does, like obviously, as you said, this is a 4th manager that's fired now, but it places a lot of pressure on this Texas Rangers front office led by John Daniels and Chris Young to get this next hire right, because they've invested a lot in this roster, hasn't performed to date so far. And if they don't get this next hire right, then they could be on the jobs or on the market looking for jobs as well.
Yeah, they love throwing this stat out there, the 6-24 in 1-run game. So obviously there was something to that. Before we let you go, you do a great job breaking stories. And a lot of fans always wonder, like, how do these guys do it? How do these guys know? So before you hit tweet, what do you have to have? How many sources? How many people have to verify? Just take our fans through it when you have something like a Walker Buehler. This is a breaking story. This means a ton in our sport. How do you go through that process?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's something that it varies by the story. Is at the end of the day, you ultimately want to have, or you need to have in order to report something, somebody directly involved. And if you don't have that, then for me, I don't tweet it, because I'm a huge believer that you need to be 100% confident when you report something. And like, there's people like in this case, or I'll even take you back to the trade deadline. There was a couple of cases where I ended up getting the Raisel Iglesias trade and also the Harrison Bader one. And I had heard those secondhand, and you end up you text people who are directly involved, and they could be like, yeah, or they could be like, no. And in that case, both of them ended up right. I got them confirmed right off the bat, and then was able to send them. But the reporting the stories thing, it's not as easy as people think it is, just because people think it's like you wait for somebody to text you. But in reality, it's a year-round conversation that you have with sources that ultimately leads you to get that kind of information at the deadline or even in the offseason too. I'm learning on the fly here. I'm still only 26. This is actually my 10-year anniversary of being in baseball today, so I appreciate you guys having me today.
You got in at 16?
In at 16. I created a random Twitter account talking baseball, and now here I am at 26.
Did you have a driver's license yet before you created that?
I actually did not.
Wow.
Yeah. That and by the way, your girl Jessica Kleinschmidt over there, she was one of my biggest supporters. So I appreciate Jess big time. She's the best.
She's fantastic. We're lucky to have her. Hey, you're a great follow. You're a great interview. Fansided.com. Always appreciate the time. Be well, and let's talk soon.
Let's do it. I appreciate you guys having me. Have an awesome day.
Great stuff. Now, I'm going to ask, do we have time to turn around that for pregame?
Yeah, I already let Robert Costa know.
Yeah, he's great. By Robert Murray on Twitter. Fansided.com.
Thank you to Jess. Actually, we've had him on before. It was like 2 years ago, I think we had him on. And then Jess actually told me yesterday that she knows him, so she helped me get Robert Murray and Stephen Woods on, actually. Because I struck out on all of our Padre contacts. So the only one I didn't reach out to is the great Bob Townsend.
We're not bringing my brother on.
Or our other guy. I don't think Bob Melvin wants to talk about what's going on down there.
I mean, I doubt Melvin wouldn't say no, but I wouldn't use my Bob Melvin card right
Yeah, no.
Hey, Bill Mel, you want to come on and talk about that taste?
Hey, Bob, this isn't a text about me asking for tickets this time. It's actually something about a little more important.
Yeah, let Bob breathe a little bit right now. We'll have Bob in the offseason. You gonna play golf with Bob in the offseason.
Or if they go, when they hopefully reach the postseason.
I root for Bob. And that's what's, it's funny. It's like, being from San Diego, growing up, and I grew up a Padre fan, right? But just have not cared about him in forever, right? So it's like Bob going back there makes me want to see them do well. But it's so Padres. It's like whenever something happens to the Clippers, it's like, it's so Clippers. There's certain organizations, but it's so New York Jets. It's so New York Jets that their quarterback gets hurt in a preseason game, right? It's so New York Jets. Like there's certain organizations like it's so them. That's what happens, right? And it's tough. It's tough. But and the more I've talked about this today, the more I realize that this whole debate about the American League MVP is really going to be fun to talk about because people have, it's easily Ohtani. And then there's other people who go, what? It's easily Judge. Both sides are compelling. Both sides. You really can look at both. And what's happening is the uniqueness of Ohtani hitting and pitching is starting to wear off.
Well, we're going to talk about it every year.
Yeah, so it's just like, okay, he's doing, but, be like, well, he's doing it. No one's ever done it before. Okay, but the Judge side's going to tell you his WAR's higher. WAR's saying all around, he's more valuable all around than Ohtani is as a hitter and pitcher. Check his WAR. You guys all beat me over the head about sabermetrics. You can't take it back now. The toothpaste is out of the tube, as they like to say.
I love that expression.
Yeah. Here's the question. Has anybody ever tried to put toothpaste back into the tube?
No, I believe I heard Gabe Kapler use that recently too. I'm like, so how many people know this expression? Apparently, when you told me it the first time a while ago, I'm like, I had no idea what this was. But
I've used it for years.
Apparently, it's very
I don't know
popular.
where I got it. If you tell me WAR is the end all,
Yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
WAR is good for baseball.
Yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again, y'all.
Good God.
What is it good for? Absolutely.
Well, WAR supposedly is good for something. It's good for finding out should a guy be a Hall of Famer or not. Why?
Well, we don't know how it's calculated. And it's different for pitchers and hitters.
But we're told that it takes
It's
everything.
the end all be all.
Well, if we say a guy's a 70-plus WAR, he should be a Hall of Famer, no
That's
problem.
a no-brainer. I think we go with even lower expectations to 60 now.
Oh, wow. I mean, I can't get my arms around that one today.
If a player has a 59.4, I don't think you're not a Hall of Famer to me.
If Aaron Judge has, okay, because this is where I think I can get hypocrites like yourself. You would tell me Trout's the best player, not off home runs, batting average, RBI, because that's old stats. You told me Trout was the best player because he's a 10 WAR.
That's what people say, yes.
Right? But now the same people are telling me Ohtani's better, but Judge has a better WAR. So you're using WAR when it works for your argument and then not using it when it doesn't work for your argument?
So
would that be called a hypocrite?
Yes. If you think back to it, it would have been 10 years next year, I believe. But what was the big thing 10 years ago was Cabrera versus Trout when Cabrera had the Triple Crown, but Trout was so good.
The Triple Crown trumped the WAR.
But everyone talked about, well, no, it should have been Trout because of WAR. But now we're using an argument against it with Aaron
Where is
Judge.
it? You said WAR is the number one thing.
I know, but I'm saying now people are using it against. They're not basing it off WAR. They're
Do
basing
you
it off
realize
Ohtani.
I'm accusing you of all those people?
I know, yeah. And
Okay.
I'm just saying that now
I'm using Cody as all those people who are hypocrites.
now everyone's looking at what Ohtani does on both sides opposed to what Aaron
But
Judge's
Judge
WAR
still
is.
adds up to more.
Yeah.
However it adds up, I still
What
don't
is his
know.
WAR? I think 7.
7 to 5.7.
Yeah.
So he's gotten beat by over
and
a 1 WAR.
Yeah, 1.5 almost. Majority of Shohei Ohtani's WAR is coming from the pitching side anyway. His hitting is only like a 2.2 or something. His pitching is like 3.6. No. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, it's 2.
Yeah.
His pitching's 2.2. I don't know what the hitting
hitting.
is.
No, it's the other way around. Hitting was 2.2. Pitching was higher when I looked.
Whatever it is, he's 5.7.
Yeah,
That's lower than 7. My San Jose State math says.
Yeah, it's just a shade under. Yeah, Ohtani 3.6 WAR pitching. ESPN had 2.2 hitting, which rounds up to 5.8, but they said it's 5.7. Either way, the 3.6 WAR is from pitching. That's where majority is.
We got to go.
Yeah, 4:05 start pregame.
I was so used to these. That's something I've thought about, and I don't know if it's worthy to address, but do you think it's good for baseball that we have all these crazy start times?
Well, it's
standard in the NFL.
Yeah, 1 and 4.
Basketball is pretty standard. You're either starting at 7 or 7:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, think about it this way though. The game starts at 5:05 for us. It's 7:05 for Texas.
But still, it's bizarro times. We're starting at 6:40 here. They're starting at 7:05. They're different start times. Saturday nights, this team starts at 5:00. This team starts at 4. The start times in baseball, I can tell you, I get this packet every day. The start times are all over the board.
Yeah, there's a 107.
And I'm not talking about time change. I'm talking about, okay, in your time zone, you start at 7:00. Well, people in their time zone, there will be at 6:40. We start our home games now at 6:40. We used to be at 7:07.
Yeah.
The start times are all over the board.
Well,
some teams play at 6:00 at night on Saturday, their time. Other teams play at 4. Some teams we'll have games that are 12:35. Our start times are all over the place. Is that good?
Most likely not. And we'll end on this because you're talking about time. Yankees Red Sox last night. How long was their game?
5 hours and 30 minutes.
Cut that in half almost, or a lot more than half.
2:50?
2 hours and 15 minutes for Yankees Red
2
Sox.
hours and 15?
It was tied for the shortest game in the rivalry.
Was it rained out?
No, since they played a 2-hour, 13-minute game in 1994. There was also a 2:15 game back in 2018.
All right. When you have national games that they're nationally promoting, have you noticed they always start at the same time? Sunday Night Baseball always starts at what?
4:07.
Why do they always start at
4:08, somewhere in there.
Why do they always start at that time? Every Sunday night.
ESPN sets it, I
Because
guess.
they want to condition you that
Yeah.
Sunday Night Baseball. And by the way, what they do last night at MLB Network, they played the National. They have highlights, and all of a sudden 4:00 hits. It's Sunday Night Baseball. ESPN holds the rights. Boom, it's off to the National. It's like, well,
That was on the other night too during the Field of Dreams games.
Peacock games now are all the same on Sunday morning, Sunday Night Baseball. Why can't we say every single team start at this point every single night? If you're playing a day game, this is when you start.
I don't disagree
Some
with you.
consistency on the start times. None of this. This team plays at 6:00 on Saturday night. This team plays at 5. That team plays at 4. Hey, I mean, we've seen 3:00 starts on a Saturday. What?
Yeah,
They're all over the place. The times are all over the place.
Last week when we played the Giants on Saturday, the game started, 4:05?
What?
Yeah. And it was
no consistency.
Yeah, no fireworks either. It was just
Put it this way, my wife, who is a baseball wife, right? She's always like, "What time's the game today?" And I always like, "Well, our games are always different."
Yeah, it is. It's true.
I mean, why not some consistency with the times? You don't see the Warriors playing or hockey playing or these bizarre, very random. Do they play
Sorry, hockey's national TV game when they were on NBC always started at what time? 12:30.
Boom. Thank you for listening to A's Cast Live. What a great show we had today. Guests were fantastic. We want to thank Stephen Woods, co-host of Ben and Woods in San Diego on the Padres flagship, Sarah Langs from MLB.com and also from MLB Network, and Robert Murray from Fansided.com, and Jessica Kleinschmidt for helping you out today. She carried you today.
That was a big help.
She carried you. Coming up next, we get you ready for A's baseball. A's Total Access, brought to you by Chevron.
The Coliseum has gone by many names, but none better than the Last Dive Bar. Hi, everyone. Ken Korak here, and my friends at Last Dive Bar are helping us celebrate our longtime home. Last Dive Bar